Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard
Colin Richardson.
and of course, another mock draft for you guys. Absolutely have to put these out on the channel because the last one did so well. If you are here watching another one, thank you for staying tuned to the channel and checking out another mock draft with us. If you are new to the channel, I would love you to support and stay along because we're going to do these throughout the rest of the off season. They're going to have a lot of movement coming with all these playoff games being played. The board is going to kind of jump around. Some of these players, we had just heard that Ty Simpson is going to enter this draft, and now he's going to be a guy we talk about in this first round more than likely. So look out for that. Could be some players that decide to come to the draft and some that decide to stay. Heck, we don't know what Dante Moore's going to do. He could even stay, and then Ty Simpson becomes the number two in this draft. And heck, would he go top three? I don't know. Not with the way he finished the season. So a lot of interesting things that can still happen. So stay tuned to the channel. We'll try to get those out. Obviously, check out the NFL stuff on the channel. Should see a video coming out very soon talking about the playoffs, the first round of them, and what we think is going to happen. And of course, some more college football coverage potentially if we talk about these games that are about to happen. But this is the mock draft, so we'll go ahead and dive into that. This is going to be a one round, no trades, just a simple stay everybody where they're at. And we'll start off with number one. Going to be a very easy pick. I think it's absolutely obvious what they are going to do with this one, and that is take the Heisman winner in Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback from Indiana, who just played one of the best games he's played all year against Alabama. Absolutely dominated them in that playoff game. He was making some plays that was like, that's why this guy's projected to go number one overall. That's why this guy won the Heisman. He is a very, very good person. So that's another positive with him is you're not going to have the issues off the field that you might get with some other players that we've had with other quarterbacks in the past. He does not have those issues. So he's going to learn. He's going to probably be willing to learn. And he's coming into a system that it's been a little dysfunctional. The Raiders have not been the best organization here over the last 2, 3 years, but they have some pieces. They have a Brock Bowers, they have an Ashton Jeanty, and they have a left tackle in Colton Miller who's pretty good. They just need to fix the rest of that offensive line. He slots into the Raiders system and instantly becomes a quarterback that we're going to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation immediately because he's going to start every game and he's going to have some nice weapons to go out to. I love Fernando Mendoza. I think it's a phenomenal pick there at one, and I think the Raiders are getting a really good one. Colin, you know how this works. If you've been here with me, we'll do alternating picks. So Colin will take everyone after me, except for when we get to our favorite teams. So I'll take the Titans. He'll take the Steelers. Other than that, it's his pick. What do you have with the Jets at number two?
Yep, for the Jets at number two, I think this one's pretty straightforward as well. Dante Moore out of Oregon. He's been pretty good in the playoffs himself. He really didn't have to do too much in the Texas Tech game, but he didn't turn the ball over a bunch, and he kind of let the defense go out there and win the game for him and did just enough to. I mean, they put up 23 points, but that defense didn't give up a point. So, really, as long as he's not turning the ball over for Oregon right now, they're going to win some games. And you saw in the James Madison game, he made some really impressive throws as well. And he's made some really good throws all season. He's been super efficient. Like I said, he doesn't really turn the ball over too much. So I think this would be a good pick for the Jets and kind of maybe get their franchise going in the right direction. Almost like the Raiders. They've been super dysfunctional. As long as I can remember,
Yep.
they've been bad. So hopefully this Dante Moore pick doesn't flop for them and it gets them going in the right direction.
Yeah, they've tried a lot of different quarterbacks. Funny enough, they have the Steelers tie in with quarterbacks. They had Aaron Rodgers, and he went to the Steelers. And then they didn't have Justin Fields. He was with the Steelers, and then goes to the Jets. Well, the Jets got the sour end of that deal because both of them were not very good when they were on the Jets. Rodgers did have a good couple games towards the end of his tenure there, and then both of them actually played pretty well with the Steelers. Even Justin Fields in the 4 or 5 games he had with the Steelers stepped up and played some decent football. So yeah, they just can't find a quarterback. One that's there just doesn't develop well. I do think Dante Moore is a guy that could probably handle the pressure too of being in New York. That media will tear you apart. They will come after you. Dante Moore is going to have to be settled in and just not listen to that because again, the team isn't very good around you. So the success is probably not going to be immediate. Now, one nice thing is you do have a really good weapon on the outside in Garrett Wilson. I do like Dante Moore a lot as well as a quarterback, and it's going to be a fun matchup in the playoff when we get to see these two guys play each other in Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore, two really talented quarterbacks that will be in the limelight of college football. So I am really excited for those two guys going into the NFL. Think they have a good chance to be good top end quarterbacks. I do like Mendoza just a little bit better as of now, but Dante Moore is certainly in the conversation with him. Moving on to number three here, another team that has a quote unquote quarterback issue. I think that controversy can be solved by just signing and keeping Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. We've talked about it all year on our podcast that we do separate, our NFL talk, that Jacoby Brissett's had an awesome season. And when he took over, that offense started humming. It's just the defense is abysmal. You could upgrade the defense. You could grab another offensive lineman. Two things that they do need. Today, we're going to experiment with something a little bit different and go offensive line. We have had some different things go here. Personally, in my opinion, I think Francis Mauigoa is the best offensive lineman in this draft, so I'm going to take him here at three. But Spencer Fanu would certainly be on the board and be an option there as well. I just like Mauigoa better. I think he's a better football player. I think he's a better run blocker. I think he's a better athlete. So all those things combined make me want to take Francis Mauigoa for the Cardinals. He instantly becomes a starter for that offensive line. And if you do have a Jacoby Brissett back there, you want to protect him. And I think you said it before we started filming. He's been getting sacked a ton this year. So he still succeeded with tons of pressure. What could he do with no pressure? Throwing the ball to Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison and heck, Michael Wilson, who turned it on towards the end of the season. I think Francis Mauigoa is a good piece to come in, protect a quarterback, whoever that is, and just shore up that offensive line. You know these linemen always go high in the draft. They're such a vital position, and if they're really good, they don't hit free agency. So it's hard to find good ones, down the road if you don't draft them. Moving on to number four here with the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, I will pick this one as well because they are my favorite team, and then we'll get back to alternating. The Titans, they have a lot of needs. They obviously don't have a superstar receiver, and we tested that with our last mock draft. Today, I'm going to go in a different direction, and that's the direction of grabbing the best defensive player potentially in this draft in Ruben Bain Jr. out of Miami. Now, there is a lot of teams that are going to be off of Ruben Bain because of his short arms, as they say, saying that that's an issue that he has. Well, if you watched Ruben Bain Jr. play against the two playoff teams he's played against so far, his arms didn't matter. He dominated, and he played against a team in Ohio State that most people considered the best team in the country until they played Indiana and dominated that one too. So Ruben Bain is a freak of an edge rusher. He can get after you at a high level. He is a heck of a run defender as well. I believe he had upwards of 20 TFLs this year. So when he's doing that in the run game, he can rush the passer. He can beat a man one-on-one. He has an incredible pass rush bag. If you've watched him play, you think he's that good as well. I know Arvell Reese is there, and he's very tempting with the season that he had. But to me, Ruben Bain is the best edge rusher. I mean, again, they're very close. And I think if the Titans took either one of them or a receiver, Carnell Tate being my favorite, I'd be happy. But Ruben Bain, we're going to experiment with that in this draft, and he's not going to fall very far going at number four to the Titans and just bolstering up what is already a pretty strong defense with Jeffrey Simmons and some other young pieces. Love him as a player, and it makes a lot of sense. Colin, the Giants on the board at five. What are you going to have them doing here?
Yeah, at number five, I got him going with Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. In my opinion, he's the best receiver in the draft. And like we've said over and over, those Ohio State wide receivers just do not miss. And you pair him up with Malik Neighbors. You have Jackson Dart. You have Wan'Dale Robinson coming on out of the slot. I think Carnell Tate, like I said, the best receiver in the draft, in my opinion. You give him to the Giants, who are already a young and improving offense, and then you have that defensive front. The Giants could be a scary team. You kind of saw the last two games of the year this year, what the potential they have, that they could be a really good team in the future. I think if they nail their head coach hiring, that they'll be a team to watch out for next year, especially if Jackson Dart continues to improve.
Yeah, and I know the Titans have the overall youngest team in football, but I feel like the Giants are really close to the top of that list with a lot of those young players they've drafted over recent years. And a lot of those guys are super important to this team. The edge rushers they've taken. Last year they drafted Bill Carter. Year before that they take Kayvon Thibodeaux, and they, of course, make the trade for Brian Burns. So that side of the ball is pretty settled. And I know it's hard not to take a guy like Arvell Reese when he's on the board, but they just don't need him. They have so many good edge rushers that it's a positional need is the receiver. And they go grab the receiver in Carnell Tate. He can be the other outside guy. You never know what Malik Neighbors will do when he comes back. That injury can literally change a player's career. It's happened plenty of times. So let's not just act like he's, this superstar that's going to return and be completely healthy. And Wan'Dale Robinson, as a solid slot receiver, he's not a wide receiver two. Carnell Tate can absolutely do that. And if he's your wide receiver two with Jackson Hart throwing the ball, you're right. This offense could be very scary, and they have a good defense. So, yeah, love that pick a ton for them. And you're right. Ohio State receivers do not bust. In the NFL, it is nearly 100% success rate when you draft these guys. Taking them this high is warranted when they're that good. Number six here with the Browns, a team that probably doesn't have their quarterback. Again, they might run it back out there with Shador next year. I haven't seen enough from him personally to think he's the franchise option, but is there one here you want to take? I don't think so. Ty Simpson's in this draft, and maybe he has some crazy combine or Senior Bowl, or I don't even know what he could participate in. I don't even think he's a senior, so if he'd be down there for that. But is he going to go this high? He could. When you're QB needy, you might take one. I don't think they're going to do it. At this position, I'm going to go grab help for whoever that quarterback is. Again, I think it will be Shador Sanders. And I'm going to draft receiver Jordan Tyson, the other best receiver in this draft, a guy that could probably go ahead of Carnell Tate if it wasn't for injuries. He's had tons of college success. Very, very good on that playoff team. A few years ago, he wasn't there for the playoffs, and it showed. They literally had to throw the ball to only Cam Skattebo in that game. And heck, he was awesome, dominated, but they would have loved to have had a top end receiver. Health, that is the big concern here. And the Browns may not be the team that needs to take a chance on a guy with health issues, but they have to. They need a super talented receiver. Jerry Jeudy clearly isn't a wide receiver one. So go out, get Jordan Tyson, try to make him your wide receiver one, and maybe that'll help Shador out. Maybe he'll look a little bit better if he gets that talented of a guy in the room with him. So go out, draft Jordan Tyson. Again, potentially the best receiver in this class. Moving on to number seven here with the Washington Commanders. Colin, where are you going to have them going?
Yep, I got him going with Arvell Reese out of Ohio State. You saw this defense the last year looked pretty good, and then this year you could tell that age was really getting to him. You have Bobby Wagner there over the middle,
Yep.
and age has really got to him pretty bad. So I think a young linebacker like Arvell Reese would be a huge get for the Commanders here. If you look at the top of this board, man, this Ohio State team was stacked this year. Ton of Ohio State, ton of Miami. No wonder you see them in the playoffs. But I think Arvell Reese would be a really good pick for the Commanders to kind of replace some parts in that aging defense, and maybe get some youth in there. Get late in the games, you're not going to be as wore down. You kind of saw that throughout the year with the Commanders.
Yeah, absolutely. They are old on defense. They have so many aging players. Marshawn Lattimore still happens to be on this team. He is aging. Like you said with Bobby Wagner, when he's your superstar, he has to be the guy in the middle of the field, and he's close to 40 years old. That just doesn't work. Arvell Reese is a guy that's probably going to play a lot of edge rusher in the NFL, but he has the ability to drop back and play coverage as a linebacker. He is super, super talented. We all thought Sonny Styles was going to be the best linebacker in the country, and then his teammate is better than him, and Arvell Reese. And Sonny Styles is still very good. As you can see, PFF has him ranked as the 11th best player in this class. So it's really impressive that he was able to come in there, dethrone Sonny Styles as the best linebacker in the country, and play the edge as well. So extremely, extremely talented player. If you remember the last guy that did that in the NFL, he happens to be playing for the Green Bay Packers. Now he's hurt right now, but Micah Parsons was a linebacker slash edge rusher in college. That worked out pretty well. So I think you can take the chance on a guy that has that elite level upside of athleticism. And the Washington Commanders, they need help. They need something on that defense to make them better. They have no real competitors on that side of the ball. So good draft pick. Get Arvell Reese, stop the slide in this one. Moving on to our next pick here, number eight with the Saints, a team that has an issue at the running back position because Alvin Kamara is only getting older and their other running backs just aren't that great anymore. Issue being they had an injury to Devin Neal. He was just getting going, then he gets hurt, and that's very unfortunate. Audric Estime cannot be your number one running back if you want to be a competitive team. And that division clearly looks like it's very winnable. And I think with your quarterback being set and the really good receiver that they have and a solid tight end, maybe the defensive side of the ball you want to address, but golly, can you just add to this offense and make it even better and go out and draft one of the most talented players in this draft, maybe one of the most athletic players as well, running back Jeremiah Love. We did have a comment from a Saints fan on our last mock draft, and they said, "I love this pick, and I think it makes us a playoff contender next year." So I'm doing that for you. I cannot remember his name, but that is a pick for you again. But also, I just think Jeremiah Love's that good. I think he can go inside the top 10. We've seen other running backs in recent past or recent history of the draft go inside the top 10, and he's obviously talented enough to be there. Like I said before, he's an Olympic level athlete. He'll jump over you, he'll outrun you, he'll run you over. He does all those things very, very well. He also catches passes at a high level, and that is what the NFL is moving towards, is those pass catching running backs. Jeremiah Love absolutely can do that and get an open field and make plays. So love the pick for the Saints. No pun intended there with Jeremiah Love. Again, just a really solid player that adds to what is already a really young, talented offense. Colin, moving to a team that shouldn't be here at 9 in the Chiefs. They may be taking a risk here.
Yeah, I've got him going Caleb Downs out of Ohio State again, my third Ohio State player in a row there. But the Chiefs could go a lot of ways here. They expect to be good again next year. At safety right now, they have Chamari Connor and Brian Cook, who aren't necessarily bad safeties. But if you can get arguably the best player in the draft at 9, I think you've got to do it. If Caleb Downs, like you were saying, it was not a safety, he would probably be going number 1 overall. PFF has him as the best player in the draft, and I think he definitely could be. He had over 100 tackles as a freshman at Alabama, which is just crazy to think about. Alabama, they're always good. And then he goes to Ohio State, so he's been facing some really, really good competition. I think he's definitely one of the better players in the draft. Definitely top 5 in my opinion. And if you can grab that at 9, I think you absolutely have to do it. So I like this pick here for the Chiefs, and I think, like I said, they expect to be much, much better next year. You get back Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully he's healthy, and I think this puts them right back in there at the top of the AFC.
Yeah, and they look at the rest of the league and they say, so what that we didn't get Jeremiah Love? We'll take the other best player on the defensive side of the ball, and Caleb Downs. Again, the player that you're talking about here is a guy that was coached by Nick Saban, so you know he has that in his bag. So you get that level of coaching, you have a good opportunity to start off your career hot. He did that and was a instant playmaker as a true freshman. He then goes to Ohio State and becomes the best player in the entire country in college football. I think a lot of people would agree with you if you said that. He's just playing a position that isn't extremely valuable in the NFL. But Kyle Hamilton went 14th, and Caleb Downs maybe had a better college career, so you can take him this high. I think it's completely warranted. If he was playing, if this guy was this talented at an edge rusher, he'd go number 1 in the draft. So unbelievable player and makes a ton of sense for a team like the Chiefs who can take a chance on a safety as well because they're so talented. He can come in and immediately start for them. Unbelievable player, and it only makes them scarier if they get that good of a guy on the defensive side of the ball. Moving on to number 10 here with the Cincinnati Bengals. This team desperately needs edge rushers. They may lose Trey Hendrickson. If I was a betting man, I'd say they are going to lose Trey Hendrickson. One of these teams, like the Titans, that have a ton of money, are going to throw him a contract that's unheard of, and he's going to head out the door. He didn't really like his time in Cincinnati anyways. They had a ton of contract disputes. He almost didn't even make it to the team this year. Don't think he's going to come back. That leaves them with a gaping hole at that position. They also have another edge rusher they drafted last year who did not do very well for them. Didn't even have a sack on the season. So it's a desperate need, and you're staring at probably the other top edge rusher in this class. I think the top 3 guys separate themselves from the rest, and that is edge rusher from Texas Tech, David Bailey. You saw how good he was in the Oregon game because the defense is the only reason Texas Tech even stayed in it for a half of that game. The offense was abysmal, turned the ball over on the other side of the field 2 times, gave Oregon good field position, and all Oregon did was convert in 1 field goal on those 2 possessions inside the 30-yard line. Part of that was David Bailey causing havoc in the backfield. He broke down a pass, he had a sack. He gets after the quarterback at a high level. He was one of the best sack getters in the entire country in the power conferences. Absolutely love David Bailey. It's a guy that I think if the Titans were to trade down, it'd be someone they may target, and I'd be very happy with that. So I think it's a great pick for the Bengals. If anybody would be happy to have a David Bailey level edge rusher, and man, do they need it with how bad their defense is. Moving on to our next team here in the Miami Dolphins. Of course, they're expecting maybe a quarterback change. Colin, where are you going to go with this pick?
Yeah, with this one, the Dolphins, they're not great in a lot of positions. They really need quarterback, but you can't go Ty here, I don't think, unless he really shows out at the combine. So I'm going to go with Spencer Fano out of Utah. He had a 1.1% pressure rate this year, which is very, very good. Dolphins former first round pick Austin Jackson has had trouble staying healthy, and he's going to be a free agent after next season. So, you get his replacement here. He might be your day 1 starter at tackle. Like I said, the other guys having injury issues. So if he's injured, he slides in. He's probably just starting over him anyways. Because like I said, 1.1% pressure rate is incredible. And then, if you do go back with Tua, which it doesn't really look like they're going to do, but if you do, you absolutely need to protect him.
Yeah.
And then if you think Quinn's your guy, you have to protect him as well because He kind of struggled already this year in the limited playing time he got, and then if he's getting pressured every down, that's just going to make things even worse on him. So I think you absolutely have to go with a tackle here to protect whoever your quarterback is going to be, whoever you bring in, or whoever you think you already have. So I think this would be a great pick for the Dolphins.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. Spencer Fondu is a phenomenal player. Love him as an offensive tackle. Tied up there with Maui Noah in that 1.1% pressure rate. Just an incredible offensive tackle. And you're right. If they bring in any quarterback, it doesn't matter if it is Tua or whoever, they have to be protected. That is the issue we've seen with Tua is all those concussions coming with the Dolphins. Part of that his fault because he doesn't slide. He gets an open field, he gets hurt. But the other problem is the pressure that comes off the edge on them. So yeah, absolutely need to protect whoever the quarterback is for the next Dolphins coaching staff if it changes, or for Mike McDaniels if he's still there. Moving on to number 12 with the Dallas Cowboys, a team that obviously has a ton of holes on that defense. But when you have a player staring at you in the face that was probably the best linebacker in this class before his teammate stepped up over him, you take him here. Sonny Styles, a linebacker out of Ohio State, can come in and be the day one starter for the Dallas Cowboys. When you traded for a linebacker from the Tennessee Titans before the season started, who had terrible linebackers last year, that's how you know you have a linebacker problem. You still desperately need that Mike linebacker, that number one guy. Go out and get Sonny Styles. Let him be the superstar for you. I love Sonny Styles. I think he's awesome. If you've watched Ohio State at all, you know that they rule the middle of that field with him and Arvell Reese. He can be a difference maker immediately in the NFL. He has that top end upside that makes him worth picking as a linebacker this high. You don't see it very often, but Sonny Styles is that good. He's that talented. And the Cowboys get a great player here at 12. Colin got the Rams coming on the clock here with the trade they made with the Falcons last year. Good draft pick. Who do you have them going?
Yep, I've got him going with Mansour Delane out of LSU, former Hokie. It hurts to say that out of LSU there, but I think he's definitely one of the best corners in the draft, if not the best corner in the draft. And this Rams defense has really struggled at some points this year. They've been good in some parts, struggled sometimes. You pair him up with Kobe Durant, who is a pretty decent corner, and I think you've got a good little cornerback group there in LA, and to pair with that offense, assuming you keep Stafford next year, who's probably going to be the MVP this year. You have Puka, Devontae Adams, and now you build up on that defense, and I think they're right back where they're at right now at the near the top of the NFC.
Yeah, I agree with you. They desperately need to add a corner. They need a top end corner, and you're going out and adding a guy in Mansour Lane who had some good seasons when he was at Virginia Tech. He had a bad game or two. People didn't like him because of that, but if you watched his tape, you knew he was a good player. He then transfers over to LSU, and like I said in our last mock draft, he in that first 6 7 weeks of the draft of the season last year, or this current college football season, had a 99.9 PFF grade. Was the number one graded out player in the entire country on the defensive side of the ball. So when you're that good, you absolutely can go this high in the draft, and a team that needs a corner can go out and add a top end guy in Mansour Lane. Moving on to number 14 here with the Baltimore Ravens, the Ratbirds end up picking at 14 due to the fact that the Steelers beat them in Pittsburgh and in their season. John Harbaugh is no longer here. What will they do? I have no idea. Well, just kidding. I'm going to go with the number one player on the board because they need him and he fits them well. And he's a player that could have been a top 10 pick if he had a great season in college. Unfortunately, had a down year, but he's still a really good player. And that's Peter Woods, the defensive lineman from Clemson. He's going to slide into the interior of that defensive line with the Ravens. And of course, they had Matt Abike, and he was a solid player. And then he unfortunately breaks his neck and has a severe injury. I mean, there is real conversation to be had that he might never play again. And that's really, really unfortunate because he was a great player and was having a good career so far. So unfortunate for the Ravens. They're also relying on a 36-year-old interior defensive lineman to replace him. That's not going to last very long. So they need to go out and add a defensive lineman. And when the best one in the draft is available, you absolutely go grab him in Peter Woods. Perfect fit for the Ravens at 14. Colin, moving on to number 15 here. The Buccaneers, we've had a pretty easy time making this pick. We've gone Sonny Styles about every single time we've mock draft. He's not here this time. So are you going to go with a linebacker at this position?
Yeah, I think they'll go with CJ Allen out of Georgia. This is might be a reach for him that you could see him possibly trading back here if they did get in this position in the actual draft. But with no trades, I think they go CJ Allen here. After him, that's kind of a pretty big drop off at the linebacker position. You've got a guy that's been coached up by Kirby Smart, one of the best defensive minds in all of football, coming out of Georgia too. So those guys usually don't miss on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
And then at linebacker, you've got Levante David, and then outside of that, you really don't have much. But then, how much more of Levante David do you really have? He's getting old now, 35 years old. This could have been his last year, or next year might be. And I mean, he's not really playing at a super high level anymore, anyway. So I think you get his replacement here with C.J. Allen out of Georgia.
Yeah, and like you said, no matter how good Levante David has been, he's 35. It doesn't matter. He's not got much time left in the NFL, and he's been the cornerstone of that defense, the most important player for a long time. So now you go grab C.J. Allen. If anything, Levante David is the perfect mentor for C.J. Allen to try to create another superstar linebacker like a Levante David, who probably ends up in that Hall of Fame someday. C.J. Allen calling all the plays for the defense at Georgia. He's the head guy. He's got the green sticker on the back of his helmet. So you know how important he is in that defense. It was one of the best defenses in the entire country at times. Now, they had their own struggles, but a lot of the time it wasn't because of the linebacking room. That is a great position for them. Him and Chris Cole, of course, taking over as the linebackers there. But I love C.J. Allen. I think he's a great football player. And with a team like the Buccaneers who desperately need that position, they can reach for him and pick him at 15. Like you said, there may be a trade back spot in this draft for a team that maybe wants to come up and try to get a receiver ahead of the next team, if that's where we go, or some other position. So, yeah, I absolutely like C.J. Allen going to the Buccaneers in a position of need. And again, he can maybe become the next Levante David on that defense. Moving on to our next team here in the New York Jets. We've already said it before earlier in this draft. They need anything on this team. They're bad everywhere, and they traded away their best corner in Sauce Gardner. This is actually one of the picks that they got back in the Sauce Gardner trade, and now they're going to replace him with this draft pick, going out and getting Jermod McCoy coming from Tennessee. And of course, there's the concerns that Jermod McCoy may not be healthy because he did not play the entire college football season this year. But there were also some rumors that he could have returned and was held out by an agent or someone else because he had top end draft upside and potential because he was absolutely dominant last year at Tennessee, one of the best corners in the entire country. So the Jets go out, grab a guy that could be the number one corner for them going into next season. And we'll see if he can repeat the success he had at Tennessee before he got that serious injury. And he's had plenty of time to heal from it. So when it gets to Jets training camp, he's going to be available. He's going to be the guy. I think it's important that he tests in the combine to see if he can maybe put a little more draft stock behind his name because of the injury. But I think he makes a lot of sense to be the cornerback one for the Jets moving forward in the draft pick that they got for Sauce Gardner. Moving on to 17 here, Colin. The Detroit Lions, they miss out on the playoffs. Dan Campbell gave himself an F for this season. How's he going to change that grade to an A?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Vega Ione out of Penn State. He's pretty much the only first round guard in the draft. He could slide down to center if you need him to. I think he's kind of a plug and play guy for this Lions team. He could be a day one starter over one of your guards. They kind of had some struggles there this year, and then that boosts what is already a super good run game. You see draft needs there at center. He could move down, play center for him. And then, like I said, the run game for the Lions is already incredible with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and I think this just improves it even more. It was a shock to me that this team missed out on the playoffs. So I think this might get them back on track to make the playoffs next year on an already incredibly talented team.
Yep, absolutely agree. Vega Ioane makes a ton of sense. Like you said, it happens all the time in the NFL that they draft a guard and then move him to center. And again, if he doesn't have to do that, he can stay at guard because Kevin Zeitler's gone. Went over to the Titans and signed that contract and was actually really good for the Titans. And you could tell that they were missing that piece on their offensive line. They had games where they didn't run the ball well, and like you said, the run game is a strong suit of that team, and they want to do that. So Vega Ioane only gives them a better run game, a better chance to protect the quarterback. Jared Goff is not a guy that can move in the pocket, so you need to protect him and keep him safe. Vega Ioane, like you said, the only draftable guard in the first round, goes to the Lions here at 17. Moving on to our next draft pick here with the Minnesota Vikings. And of course, the Vikings, they have a couple needs. They could go secondary here. We've had that before. But this time I'm actually going to go on the interior of the defensive line and draft one of the best defensive linemen in the entire country, in interior defensive lineman Caden McDonald, coming from Ohio State. One of the best run stoppers in the entire country. He was at the top of the run stop percentage in all of college football, actually finished as the second best in the interior. But also, he got to the quarterback a little bit, had 3 sacks from the interior, but also pushes the D line or pushes the O line into the backfield very very well, causes havoc. Cade McDonald absolutely could do that in the NFL. We had someone in our last mock draft comment saying that they would like to see Cade McDonald end up in the first round. There he is, going at number 18 to the Minnesota Vikings. So we really pushed him up the board, got him into the first round, and I think he's a guy that, again, this Ohio State defense, all these players seem reliable from that defense, and we've drafted a ton of them. Just another one to add to the lineage of Ohio State defensive linemen, defensive players in general going into this draft. And man, they could have an all-time draft with all these players going in the first round. Colin, moving to number 19 here with the Panthers, looking to maybe add some help for Bryce Young.
Yep, I'm going with Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. They don't really have too much at the tight end room. They have Tommy Tremble, who just really hasn't improved like you would really want him to there with Carolina. I think Kenyon Sadiq would be a really good pick for him. Easily the best tight end in this draft. He's a great receiver, really good in the run game as well, and just gives another weapon to Bryce Young, who, if they stick with, maybe will help him become more consistent, give him a reliable target when he doesn't have anything downfield. So I think this would be a really good pick for the Panthers. Like I said, hopefully improve Bryce Young's consistency, which is something he struggled with pretty bad this year.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. Again, the tight end happens to be the position that is skyrocketing up boards in the NFL for teams. We saw the Raiders take two tight ends in the last two drafts. Kind of crazy, but Brock Bowers was there, so they had to take him. And then we've seen other tight ends. Kyle Pitts went high in the draft, and there's just super talented guys at that position right now in the league. Trey McBride ended up being a pretty high draft pick, and that position has become so valuable in the NFL, and all he can do is help out a quarterback. The tight end is the check down, the easy routes, and Kenyon Sadiq is phenomenal in the run game as well. Will block. He doesn't consider himself better than anybody else. He'll do the dirty work, block for you, and then be your best receiver at the tight end position as well. Love that pick for them. And you're only adding to that offense. For Bryce Young, his targets get even better. He has Teteroa McMillan, who looks like a guy that might win Rookie of the Year. He also has Xavier Legette, who towards the end of the season has actually made some plays. Now you add Kenyon Sadiq, and man, that is a scary offense for him to pass the ball to. If he doesn't succeed with all those guys, will Bryce Young ever succeed? It will be the question mark. Moving on to number 20 here with the Dallas Cowboys. This, of course, being the pick they receive in the Micah Parsons trade. They're going to go out and replace Micah Parsons in drafting edge rusher out of Texas A&M, keep him in the state, Cassius Howe. They were able to watch him a lot in college, I would assume, again, just down the road, and he was really, really good. He was a 9.5, 10 sack guy in the SEC. That's really, really impressive when you're getting after some of the tackles that are in the SEC. I love him as a player. I think he is a speed rush guy that can get off the edge and make plays that way, but he also still has a little bit of size to him. So a good football player, and you see that the Dallas Cowboys, they need whatever you can do on the defensive side of the ball. They need to add there, and we've went linebacker and edge rusher to try to patch those holes. Now they probably need to add to the secondary in the second round, but that is a problem for another time. Colin, moving on to your favorite team here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are you going to have them doing?
Yeah, with Mekhi Lemon on the board, I think that's absolutely where they have to go here. You saw this year when DK was out that they really didn't have much. I mean, Calvin Austin was there, but he's obviously not a wide receiver one, and honestly, you don't really want to have him have to be your wide receiver two either. I think he would be a fine wide receiver three, but I think Mekhi Lemon here would be a great pick for him. Great route running beside DK. He has reliable hands. You see, he wins the Blitnikoff this year. Just an incredible receiver. I think if you can get him at 21, you have to do it for sure. It just adds another weapon. You might get Aaron Rodgers back next year. You might not. We'll see what they do at the quarterback position. You could maybe go Ty Simpson here if he, like I said, goes off in the combine, but I'm just not sold on him. I think Mekhi Lemon here has to be the pick for the Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last time the Steelers picked a quarterback in the 20s, that didn't work out too well. I know he was a homer. Everybody wanted him to succeed, but it did not play out well. And when you're drafting a quarterback in that range, sometimes it gets a little bit scary. So I think Mekhi Lemon's there. They are pulling that trigger immediately. They are running that draft card to the to turn it in and say, "Hey, give us Mekhi Lemon, please." He has unbelievably reliable hands. He catches everything you throw to him. You can put him at the other wideout position. He's not ginormous as a receiver, but he's bigger than Calvin Austin out there. Calvin Austin can then move inside, play the slot some for you, and just be more dynamic there. And man, does that just immediately feel like a better passing attack. Just instantly gets way better than what they have now because he's that good of a player. Love Mekhi Lemon to the Steelers. Moving on to our next team here with the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a team that has had really bad offensive line issues this season, but they're getting back two of the better tackles in all of football next year. So I don't think they're going to go with an offensive lineman. If there was a really good guard on the board, if Vega Ione was to slip to here, I think they absolutely could draft him. But I just don't see Caden Proctor at 6'7", 200 or 360 pounds moving to offensive guard. Would he be dominant there? Yeah, probably, because he's one of the better run blockers in this draft. So maybe they would do that, but I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to go with an interior defensive lineman in Amori Washington out of Oregon. This is a guy that is a mountain of a human being, 6'3", 330 pounds on the interior of that defensive line. He can jump up and swat down passes because of his size, how tall he is, but he's also just a game wrecker on the interior. When you're that big, it is extremely difficult for other centers and guards to move you out of the way. So I love him to come in, immediately fill that issue that they have on the interior of their defensive line. The outside guys have been pretty good this year. Love the Odafe Owe trade to get him on the outside. So let's go get Amori Washington and let's shore up the interior of that defensive line. And then when those two tackles come back, your offensive line gets a lot better. Love this pick for the Chargers. Moving on to number 23 here, the defending Super Bowl champions until they aren't. That could happen soon, but as of now, they still are that. They do have one glaring need. Colin, what are you going to pick here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Avion Terrell out of Clemson. They have Quinyon Mitchell, but I think that Avion Terrell will pair up great as number two beside of him.
Yep.
Cooper DeJean, he can't be on the outside. He needs to be in the nickel position. And then so Terrell, he's gonna be a lockdown corner, but also in the last 2 years at Clemson, he's forced 8 fumbles, which is
Yeah.
incredible out of a corner. I mean, they're not really supposed to be making too many tackles, but he's coming up in the run game and forcing fumbles. So that's exactly what you want tackling wise out of your corner. Like I said, he's going to lock down on the outside with Quinyon Mitchell. You have DeJean in the nickel. I think this would really bolster this defense for the Eagles.
Yeah, and if the Eagles secondary needed any more help, they are already really good with DeJean. And of course, you get the outside guy in Quinyon, but you just don't have another one. They are running out there Kelly Ringo, and they're running out a couple other guys that just haven't succeeded in that position. And they don't have too many weaknesses. Avion Terrell can fill one of those weaknesses that they have. You might see them address the tight end position if a guy like Kenyon Sadiq falls to here because Dallas Goedert is a free agent. So that could be a position they look at, but there just isn't any other guard or tackle or tight end, I should say, that you want to draft here. So they go with the cornerback and they get Avion Terrell. Moving on to number 24 with the Buffalo Bills. There is one glaring need on this team, and it is absolutely the outside receiver. They do not have one that is really worth a lick, and there's one here that's really good. He's also a massive human being, and that is 6'4", 209-pound receiver Denzel Boston out of Washington. Had a lot of success in college, getting the ball from Damon Williams over and over and over this season and making plays when he does have the ball in his hands. Love him as a player. Think the Bills have to go out and get a receiver this year. Casey Concepcion is clearly an option because of how talented he is, but they have Khalil Shakir. And Khalil Shakir and Casey Concepcion, neither one of them can play on the outside. Those are slot receivers. So I think they need to grab an outside guy, and Denzel Boston is the perfect tall and big-time threat on the outside to help out the Buffalo Bills. Maybe they're going to make a Super Bowl run, and they'll be picking at 32, and they don't have to worry about taking Denzel Boston because he'll be gone by that position. But I think he's a great player. I think he's a perfect fit for a team that needs an outside guy. Colin, moving on to number 25 here with the Bears. They have a couple issues. Which one are you going to address here?
Yeah, I think they go Keldrick Falk here. I think he's one of the better defensive players in the draft, and I think if he falls all the way to 25, you've got to take him.
Yep.
They have a need at defensive line, but I think Keldrick Falk is big enough. I think he was 6'6", 285 pounds.
Yep.
So I think he's big enough to slide down and play defensive line. And then also, if you need him to play edge occasionally, he can go out there and do that. So you're getting a little bit of versatility out of him. He's a really, really good run defender as well. So I think that's another reason why he would slide down there in the defensive line position and be fine. I think this would fill a need for the Bears. They've also struggled to generate any pass rush this year, one of the worst in the NFL. So I think this pick for the Bears would be great.
Yeah, and they're spending a lot of money on this team currently. They need draftable players that can come in and play immediately. And Keldrick Folk feels like a guy that could absolutely do that. If he does drop this far, the Bears are going to fall in love with that pick because he can play edge rusher and interior defensive line, two positions of need for the Bears. Absolutely love that pick a ton. Like you said, he is a massive human being at 6'6", 285 pounds. We'll see if he has some crazy combine performance because that could absolutely boost him up the board. Because if he has the size and then a really good combine performance, we've seen that time and time again push a guy all the way up the board. But if he's here at 25, it's a steal for the Bears. Moving on to our next team here in the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, this is a team that has a few needs. They are really good, and they have their edge rusher. They're listed as a need, but they have Nick Bosa, and right now he's just not playing because of the injury, but they should have him back. Other than that, the issue that I think they need to address is the receiver position. There was a time this season when they had nobody playing receiver because Juwan Jennings was injured, Ricky Pearsall was injured, and can we trust Brandon Ayuk anymore in the NFL? I don't think so. The injury pretty much derailed his career. It doesn't seem like he even wants to play for them anyways. So I'm going to go out and grab a receiver here. This is a pick that I love for them. And Casey Concepcion, the really good slot receiver out of Texas A&M. Ricky Pearsall is your outside guy. He's playing that position pretty well. When he's been on the field, he's a good football player. If they bring back Juwan Jennings, he's the other outside guy. I don't know if they're going to have the money to do that, but Casey Concepcion can play the slot for you, and he'd be needed either way. Even if they bring back Juwan, he could play for them. So I love the pick. Casey Concepcion becomes another target for Brock Purdy. He doesn't just have to throw the ball to George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey all the time if the other guys get injured. So bring in the top slot guy in this draft and immediately slot him into a pretty good offense already. Moving on to number 27 here with the Texans. They've had their own issues this season. One of those issues has been protecting C.J. Stroud. Under pressure, he has made some bad decisions, thrown a couple picks here and there. Their offensive line isn't terrible, but they still can address that. Colin, where are you going?
Yeah, it's kind of been the story of CJ Stroud's career up to this point. He's kind of been under pressure his whole career. This year, it's gotten a little bit better, but it's really between Caden Proctor and Caleb Lomu here. And I think Caleb Lomu is more of a sure thing for him. You're not really taking too much of a risk on him. He didn't allow a sack all year and only six pressures total. So I think this pick would be really good for the Texans. Like I said, you've already got your franchise quarterback in CJ Stroud. And now you've got somebody that could be a long-term guy for the Texans. They're protecting him, just to kind of be a quarterback tackle pair, maybe their whole careers.
Yeah. And again, you draft any of these tackles, you could shift him down to guard and let him play there as well. But this dude was unbelievable as a blindside blocker in that Utah offense. So, like you said, if he's that good, it's hard not to play the guy out there and try to protect CJ Stroud. He's had his own injury issues. He's also had the turnover problems due to pressure rate. So they traded away their best left tackle. Go out and get one this year. If you don't need him at tackle, move him to guard. Offensive linemen are so good, so versatile. Caleb Lomu is one of the best in this draft, so it just makes a ton of sense. Moving on to number 28, and this is where we're going to have a little bit of fun. We got some news today. We talked about it at the beginning of the podcast. Ty Simpson has entered this draft, and Ty Simpson early on was the number 2 quarterback in this class, and we had him going inside the top 5. He's now fallen due to the fact that he did not play very well at the end of the season. And his last game, man, was it ugly. But he's been dealing with his own injury concerns. And the Oklahoma game the week before, he looked really good. He had stepped up and played good football again. The Browns are not really locked into any quarterback right now. Dylan Gabriel clearly is not the option, and Shedeur Sanders, although he's had his flashes, moments, and stuff like that have looked good, he's also had the really negative moments that have looked really, really bad. He threw a ton of interceptions and a lot of bad decisions, and they don't really have any draft capital involved with him. He was a fifth-round pick. Go out and draft a quarterback in Ty Simpson. Get him to come in, be the Browns guy moving forward. They don't take the quarterback way earlier in this draft. They wait to 28. They get him with that Jaguars pick that they received in the Travis Hunter trade. I think he's going to end up being a quarterback that has the upside to be accurate, to be a top-tier passer. Will it happen? I have no idea. Is the Browns the place you really want to go if you're a quarterback? Probably not. They do not develop quarterbacks very well, but I think that Ty Simpson maybe can change things for them. Goes into the Cleveland system, maybe has a little bit better receiver because they drafted one earlier in this draft, and then has a really good tight end in Harold Fannin, and maybe the things will work out and they'll develop, become a pretty good team with Ty Simpson at the helm. Moving on to this next pick here with the LA Rams. Of course, earlier in the draft, we went corner this time around, and last time we went tackle, so we'll flip it. We'll go tackle right here to try to protect Matthew Stafford as he finishes up his career. Colin, where are you going?
Yep, I'm gonna go with Caden Proctor here out of Alabama, back-to-back Alabama picks. I think Caden Proctor honestly might have the most upside out of any of the tackles just because of his size and athleticism.
Yeah.
He's super quick and absolutely massive. And then if you can just brush up on his footwork, he could be your long-term tackle there.
Yeah.
If not, honestly, you could slide him down at guard. He's an absolute mauler in the run game. He might be a little bit tough to throw over at 6'7", but I mean, at the end of the day, his run blocking is always going to be there for you. But if you can just develop that pass blocking a little bit more, I think this is an absolute home run pick at 29 for the Rams. Assuming you keep Stafford, you just have another guy protecting him, and he's definitely going to need it because he's not getting any faster with age.
No, yeah, he's a more of a standstill quarterback than he ever has been, but he's still phenomenal. Obviously, going to probably win the MVP or at least finish top two. Caden Proctor is a great pick to come in and protect the quarterback. Again, he had some times in Alabama where he didn't look all that great, but then he had games where he looked like he was the best player on the field. And like you said, that's the upside. That's the man. He might have the lowest floor, but he has the highest ceiling. And you got to swing for the fences when you're a team like the Rams. You've already made a good pick earlier in this draft that you feel like is not going to bust. So go out and get a tackle prospect that is ginormous. And if he does move down to guard, he is going to be unbelievable at that position because he is one of the best run blockers in this draft. Love Caden Proctor to the Rams right there. Moving on to number 30 here with the New England Patriots. Going to have them going out and drafting TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson. Clemson, of course, had some really good defenders. You're seeing three of them go in the first round of this draft, but they didn't have as much success at Clemson this year because a lot of those guys stepped back. TJ Parker, he may or may not have done the same, but he's super talented and he's extremely fast off the edge. He is one of those guys that if you let him get after a quarterback, he is going to get around your tackle. He is a high speed type of guy, going to pass rush, not off power, but based on his speed. He's a longer edge rusher as well, so got long arms, got the ability to jump up, bat down passes, and maybe drop back a little bit in some coverage situations as an outside linebacker. But I love TJ Parker. I think he's a great football player. Clemson is very surprising that they didn't have a good season because this guy was really good, and you had the interior defensive lineman, and you have Avion Terrell, so a lot of talent. TJ Parker fits the New England Patriots needs and only makes this 14-win team a little bit better going into next season. Also, Mike Vrabel is a good defensive coach that can probably fix any of those issues Parker had at Clemson, wrapping up his career there. Moving on to number 31 here, the Denver Broncos, a team that can take a shot because they are the number one team in the AFC. Colin, where do you have them going?
Yep, I've got him going with Anthony Hill out of Texas. He's a guy that's been he's a 3-year starter for him pretty much, and he's still not even 21 years old yet. I mean, there's absolutely upside there, and he's already started 3 years, so it's not like he's coming in completely brand new. Like I said, the Broncos can take a swing here. It's a little bit of a reach, but like I said, he's not even 21 years old yet, so there's still massive upside here for the Broncos. And then at the linebacker position, you have Alex Singleton set to become a free agent. And then Dre Greenlaw has been out with injury. So I think this could possibly fill a void for the Broncos. And then if he has to set behind a guy, like I've said, he's not 21 years old yet. So it's not going to
Yeah.
kill him to set a year and learn a little bit more, even though he's already started 3 years for Texas. So ton of potential here. And then already a ton of experience for him, which is kind of rare, young age and a ton of experience at the same time. So I think this would be a good pick here for the Broncos.
Yeah, and he was one of those important players on that really good Texas defense. That unit had to try to carry them through the first half of the season because Arch Manning just wasn't playing his best football. And Anthony Hill, of course, being a cornerstone of that defense is a great piece to add into the NFL. Like you said with the Broncos, they can take that shot. They have one of the best defenses in football, and linebacker is the weak spot. It's not a great room. Dre Greenlaw has his injury past. He's also been hurt this year. Singleton, like you said, a free agent. You go out and add the linebacker that you're not going to pay as much as a free agent linebacker would cost you, and he can be a 4-year guy potentially, starting at that position. Absolutely love Anthony Hill coming in and being an instant starter for the Broncos potentially. And if he isn't, like you said, he's not even 21 years old. So he can sit there, learn from Dre Greenlaw, who's had big moments, played in the Super Bowl, and then step in and become the guy a year later. Love the pick a lot for the Broncos. Moving on to our last pick of this mock draft, number 32, with a team that already has a really good defense. One of the weaknesses on this defense is that DB room. Now, not necessarily is it weak right now, but they're going to lose players and they have a lot of money locked up into other positions. One of the ways to address that is draft a player at that position. And Colton Hood is still on the board. This is one of the best college football corners. Had a great season at Tennessee this year. Had to step in for Ricky Gibson and Jermod McCoy, both falling down with injury. And wow, did he do a good job at that? He was almost locked down all year. Really didn't see very many passes completed on him. So now he comes in, makes this secondary that's already pretty solid, really, really good. Can lock down your best team receiver and or your best receiver for a team, and they already have a guy doing that on the outside. So it makes them even scarier. You play a team that has a CeeDee Lamb and a George Pickens, if that was to return next year. You could put him on one of them and put the other on the other, and boom, you've got a really good secondary. So they don't need a ton. Their defense is incredible, like I said before, but offensively, there's not a lot of holes. The line got better. If they were going to draft somebody, it might be a guard, and there's just none left to draft there. So they go out, they add the best remaining corner in Colton Hood, and that wraps up the first round of our mock draft. We're now looking at the board, and of course, Colin, I'll throw you in the hot seat and ask you what picks do you like the most as you're looking at 1 through 32 here?
Yeah, I absolutely love Sonny Styles to the Cowboys. They have really, really struggled on defense in general this year, especially at the linebacker position. So I think he's clearly one of the best linebackers in the draft, and I think it feels a glaring need for him there. I like two picks down there. I like Peter Woods to the Ravens, like you said. They've been dealing with injury at that position and then just inconsistent play as well. So I think Peter Woods fills a glaring need there. Obviously, I love Mekhi Lemon to the Steelers. They desperately, desperately, desperately need a wide receiver too. Just another weapon because without DK Metcalf, they've shown that they can't really function as an offense. So love that pick. And then lastly, I like Ty Simpson to the Browns. I know it feels like such a Browns pick for them to go draft a quarterback. And I mean, knowing the Browns, it probably is not going to work out. But I
Yeah.
think that Ty, I think he's a good guy, and I mean, I think he'll definitely work as hard as he can. Earlier they've drafted like Johnny Manziel, and I think that Ty Simpson is almost the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
And I think that he's got as good a shot as anybody to work out for the Browns. I'm kind of hoping for them that he does make the Browns competitive again. They desperately need it.
Yeah, and absolutely, I agree with you that Ty has the potential to be that because, like we said, he was our number two pick in mock drafts earlier because that's how good he looked. So he's shown the flashes of being that top end quarterback. His offensive line certainly didn't help him out. His right tackle was awful last season. His left tackle, of course, got drafted right after him there to the Rams. But the rest of that offensive line struggled at times. They didn't help him out. He had receivers dropping passes. So I think there's still upside there. And if you're the Browns, you get him at 28, you're not risking much. And heck, that draft pick is one you added because you wanted to move back last year and draft Mason Graham on the interior of your defensive line. And so that pick is kind of a free pick. You got it from a trade. So use it, go get your quarterback. Maybe you can change the future. For picks that I really like, maybe a little bit of a homer pick, but I love Ruben Bain as a player to the Titans. Again, not like it's a crazy pick. He's definitely going to go somewhere in that top 10. But man, he's really, really talented. We saw what he can do to Ohio State's offensive line. He can get to the NFL and play against top tier guys, maybe get after the quarterback. And there's already a guy in Tennessee that takes up two blockers, so maybe Ruben Bain gets free and gets to get after quarterbacks one on one. Absolutely love this for the Chiefs. Man, I hate that they're getting it, but Caleb Downs going to the Chiefs, that just seems like, yeah, I mean, it seems like a very Chiefs thing is to have a bad year, they land the best defensive player in the draft, and they're back next year. And they have a guy out there roaming the field that is a monster at the safety position for 4 years under a cheaper contract than he would be once he reaches free agency. Another pick that I absolutely love, Mekhi Lemon. I have to also bring it up. That is unbelievable. If the Steelers get a guy that is that good, that is one of these top three receivers, Tate, Tyson, and Lemon, that would be phenomenal for them. They need that high level of a receiver to pair with DK Metcalf. He also would be cheaper for 4 years. That's a big part of this is the Steelers don't have a ton of cap space to do things. That's the way you do it, is go draft players. I think he is an instant starter. He's an instant difference maker for that offense. He would be the second best receiver. And again, the hands are so reliable that you love to have that. So whoever the quarterback is has a target they can trust. And then moving down the board a little bit, I'm a big fan of the Denzel Boston draft pick by the Buffalo Bills. I've already voiced my opinion on the Bills needing a receiver on the outside. Last time we went Chris Bell, he has some injury concerns. This time we flipped it up and went Denzel Boston. It has to be a receiver, I feel like. Josh Allen has had so many different receivers that he has to try to force the ball to, not named Khalil Shakir. So go out, get a guy that can play that position and be a guy that is, a difference maker. At 6'4", he could be that. Last but not least, Colton Hood at 32 feels like a phenomenal draft pick. I believe in our last mock draft, we had him inside the top 30 to maybe the Rams. And so, again, this guy is a very talented corner. I know he only had 1 year in college where he was super dominant, but the Seahawks, they're already a really good defense. They get even better when they add a guy like Colton Hood. So, overall, I think this is a really fun mock draft. We didn't make any big moves. We didn't make any trades. And our next one, we might experiment with a second round. So do a first and second round mock and really get into those deeper players that can make more sense for some of these teams, or maybe even a team you don't see here drafting, like maybe the Falcons, who didn't have a pick. So those fans at least have something to look forward to in a two-round mock. But Colin, is there anything else you want to add on here?
Yep. Hopefully the Steelers win the Super Bowl. Yeah, they got a big game this week against the Texans. We went and watched them last week. It
Yep.
was an excellent time. Unfortunately, not going to be able to be there this week, so hopefully they're able to get a big win.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm pulling for you this week for sure. Playing a division rival of mine in the Houston Texans, so I do hope you go out and beat them. Everything feels like it's lining up for them to do so. Maybe they're a team of destiny. The NFL gave them that Monday Night Football game. That feels like a good spot to be in with the Steelers winning streak there. But like I said before, if you guys enjoy the mock draft content, continue to like, comment. It helped a ton on the last one. That was my most popular video by far, by a long shot. Had over 20 people subscribe. We're over 100 subscribers now. So again, thank you guys so much for that. If you're seeing this now, I hope you like this one as much. Again, not as interesting. Didn't have the trades in it, but we did have a lot of fun stuff happen. And heck, we got Ty Simpson into this one because he has announced he's going to the NFL draft. So a lot of fun things that were said and a lot of things we talked about. Again, comment if you guys have any interesting things you want to add or maybe something you'd like to see us do in the future in mock drafts. We've got a lot of them to do. So we might have to get creative and do something fun for some of them down the line. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you guys in our next video. Peace.
Peace.